Man, did you know the marriage rate is plummeting? Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Yes, you did. Don't play dumb with me. All right, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, this one says 70 years ago, a large majority of U.S. households, approximately 80%, were made up of married couples. In 2020, which was just a couple years ago, the proportions of households consisting of married couples fell to 49%. That is a big drop, a really big drop. What do you think? Why do you think the reason is that it fell so rapidly?
Okay, let me look at the year again. 7 years, 2020. Okay, I think it goes back to one, not, getting married for, I guess, duty, but getting married for love. And a lot of people look at love as a feeling rather than, actions and things like that. So I think that plays a role.
Mhm.
I would also say, I think the value in marriage, like a lot of people got married out of necessity, and now people don't really necessarily need to get married,
Hmm.
is a thought that a lot of people have. So I think that's also.
Wait, do you think people need to get married?
I think if you want to have kids, yes, you need to get married.
Why do you think people feel like they don't need to get married?
Well, I would say like laws, a lot of, especially towards men, a lot of men are like, hey, this isn't fair.
Mhm.
She gets half of what I get or half of what I make.
That's
And
kind of a bad deal, right?
yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean,
You're putting a lot on the line.
yeah. And especially how a lot of modern women are today, I can understand why.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's probably why.
Oh yeah. Now I think there's another statistic. I'm not sure if this is the next excerpt. Well, here's something that's big, and this is what I was getting into. Delaying marriage has also played a role in lowering marriage rates. The median ages at first marriage are now 30 years for men and 28 years for women, about 8 years higher. 8 years higher. That's like high school and college higher than the ages in the 1950s. And then that's kind of the end of that. So people are getting married later. And so, I mean, of course, the idea is you get a job out of college, and as a man, your 20s, you're kind of just building. You're kind of saving money, trying to do what you want to do. And then if you're like, I want to get married or I want to have, a committed relationship in my life, if you sign that marriage paper, now all of a sudden it's like, man, she can take half. And I've built myself up over the last like 10 years, 8 to 10 years, and it could just be stripped away from me. And so I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. And I think not even like just taking half, but like she'll most likely get the kids.
Right. Like everything, like literally
Yeah, it's
take.
like everything.
Yeah.
So I can see how like the laws are a little unfair in that area.
Because it's one thing for her to take like half your stuff, but it's another thing for her to take like half your stuff. 'Cause, like that stuff, you can build that back, right? But then she has your kids too. Like you don't really get to, have that engagement with your kids. That's kind of tough. That's actually really tough. And so I think delaying getting married, and this is why if you get married younger, then it's like you're more on an even playing field, right? It's like now y'all can just build together.
Yeah.
So that's why I would advocate for building or for marriage younger. One, I think it's, eliminates your,
Experience.
experience in the dating pool as far as like your sin and fornication and
Yeah.
all that.
Which ends up leading to like comparison and stuff like that.
That comparison, it leads you down a road where like your soul starts to degenerate in a way that it shouldn't be degenerating. That's why the sin has consequences. The wages of sin is death, and it's kind of like the death of your soul every time that you don't live true to God's word in that way. And so if you get married younger, and it's not just like getting married to somebody off a whim, it's like, oh no, she's the one. It's like, no, you get married, you make a very wise decision. You vet the woman or the man.
Have your family do it too.
Your family who's, competent
Yeah.
at and who won't tell you lies, who aren't yes men or yes people. Vet the person that you're trying to get with, and then it's not just your decision, it's actually a family decision because you're bringing that person into your life. So you don't want to bring somebody who's going to be a cancer to not only you but the people around you want to make sure that person's solid, they fit in right into the mix.
Yep.
So let's get our next statistic. Oh, going back one. For example, the proportion never married among Americans aged 25 to 50 years quadrupled from 9% or in 1970 to a high of 35% in 2018.
That's
and
wild.
so now there's a bunch of people that are like, screw it. And I think for men, it just goes back to, I'm just not going to get married if I build all this stuff and somebody could just come tear down my kingdom. It's like, so now they're putting up, these walls. They're building those walls around their kingdom, and they're like, yeah, I mean, women can come in for a stay, but then I have to kick them out. Like, they can't come in and, they can't sit on the throne next to me as a queen. I just run women in and out of here.
They're in the harem.
Basically. And I think for women, they're being told that they can just be independent and that they don't need a man. And so
Yeah.
they don't have those qualities to get a man. They're actually repulsing the men that they desire to be with.
Or it's like, going back to like being independent. So they end up making like a certain amount, and then they're like, oh, I want a man that makes more than that, which
Right.
isn't statistically like available, like as available as I think it is.
Oh, right. So if they're like, I need a man that's like six figures, and it's like, that's like, I forget what percentage of men, it's like 10%, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 10%.
I think if you make six figures, you're automatically in like 10%. It's the higher, we'll say 20%, but that's still, you're leaving 80% of guys and a large amount who could be a good candidate for you and who could, lead you spiritually, who could make sure that you're, taken care of and provided for, give you provision for your life, which is a big thing. Just having, goals and helping you to reach those goals as a unit in a relationship. That's huge. Even before you get married, you should have that. And so like for us, we have those goals. It's like, we're not just dating
Just
because
to date.
we like each other
Yeah.
and we're having fun. We're dating because we love each other, but we also have a plan moving forward. Part of that plan is to get married. And then we have stuff after that we're trying to hit. We have goals in mind. And so we're moving as a unit in the same direction. I think a lot of people aren't doing that now.
I agree.
Yeah. So next statistic. Decades of statistics have shown that on average, married couples have better physical health, more financial stability, and greater social mobility than unmarried people. And this is the benefit of marriage. Like, just absolutely, this is just the benefit of marriage is not only will you have better financial stability, because if you get, a good woman, even if she doesn't necessarily work, if she's, a housewife, she will, she'll be able to support you.
Make sure you come home to a nice house,
Right.
nice food,
Mhm.
kids are behaving.
And give you space
Yeah.
to, grow and chase your bag. But if she's, a career woman, then now she's able to, contribute and advance in your career as well as bring you peace. But you also have to know, the balance between those two.
Yeah.
So financial stability, people with somebody to do life with, when you have other people to live for, it encourages you to be healthier, to be physically healthier. Like when we met, or when we started dating, we both, after a while, we were like, oh, we want to look good for each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so now we're both work out all the time and our bodies have transformed as a result. And so now we look at each other like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, look at that. You are developing into a wonderful woman. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
And so,
Blushing.
and then social mobility, we kind of covered that because that's kind of going up. Well, it's social mobility because now instead of it's just you and your boys or you and your girls, it's like now you're bringing in two sets of friends. And if you already have a good network, now, like for instance, I am able to give you opportunities that maybe you wouldn't have had we not been together or had we not met. And this goes with just friends in general as well. And the same for you. It's
Yeah.
like, because I met you, I have like friends like Daniel and Chelsea and things of that nature. And so it expands your network. But again, it goes back to you got to make sure you're doing it with the right person. And this is the last statistic that we have. And when it comes to fighting poverty, there is no better weapon than marriage. In fact, marriage reduces the probability of child poverty by 80%. And all these women saying, I'll just have a kid,
Without
and
their dad.
without a, well, yeah, they don't even, they're planning to have it without a dad
Yeah,
now.
just get a sperm donor. Got my kid.
Statistically, you are not doing right by that child by bringing him into the world.
Yeah, because they're always gonna be like, "Hey, who's my dad?"
Yeah, where's my daddy at? And I mean, it just goes back to you're raising it on one income. And so, like, if there's two people, right, then if somebody, goes through a hard time, loses a job, or something happens, God forbid something happens to them, they're not able to work, disability, then the other person can kind of shoulder that burden for a little while until the other person's able to metaphorically get back on their feet. And so this brings us to a good Bible verse, which is Ecclesiastes 4:9, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor, which ties into what we just talked about. It's like two people together. I mean, you put your efforts together, you're going to have more productivity if it's two good people. But again, if one of those people are bad, you didn't vet them properly, they will tear you down.
Like that bad apple reference.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's all we got to say about that. Remember, hit a like for that.
You like